You're listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. We're alive to love, and all other values are potential BS. Now here's your host, Bishop Randy Dean.
Welcome to you all. I'm Bishop Randy Dean. It is a delight for me to be here again with you for this episode of Alive to Love. I want you to say it with me, alive to love. We'll repeat a love's creed in a moment, but those three words, alive to love, have special meaning for me today. What does it mean to be alive to love in an age of violence? And that's my subject for today. It's a bit of a heavy topic, but it's a necessary topic. And I want to be as necessary, prophetic, and profound as I know how to be in the midst of an age of violence. How to be alive to love in an age of violence. Well, we do some things here regularly and not in a routine, but for the routine of a basis to stand upon so that when we go forward with whatever topic that I bring to you, you know that I'm trying to keep this thing as straightforward as I know how and consistent. That to me is so important, to have a consistent voice, a consistent value, especially when it comes to a subject as weighty as love. So we'll start with the Lord's Prayer, and then shortly after the Lord's Prayer, I want to offer you Love's Creed. I pause with that here right now because Love's Creed, I think, again, is so vital for our thinking and our meditation, our processing, how the world is going on today in the bloody scenes that we see every day on the news and social media and our conversations. It's an occupation of our life in this day and time. So Love's Creed, I think, needs to have a good, solid handle that I'm offering for you to be here. All right? So first, the Lord's Prayer, a prayer that is prayed more than any prayer on earth in history. It's so significant that Jesus said, these are the words to say. And of course he said, don't vainly repeat it, but he did say this. So make sure the full weight of what is being offered to you is carried in the words that you say when you pray the wisdom of Jesus when he said, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And I just want to add today, thank you, Jesus, for the wisdom of those significant and powerful words. Now, Love's Creed, a New Year's resolution I wrote over a decade ago, but I carry it with me, literally and figuratively. I carry it with me as a meditation. Once again, in a day and time when violence is in our regular space of hearing and seeing and watching perhaps, I believe it's important for some of us to carry with us this sort of truth in the face of the opposite. So here it is in total, Love's Creed. Then I want to go back and just slowly ask you to repeat after me these words. All right, here it is in total. I'm alive to love. I'm not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating, and sleeping to regain energy for causing pain. I'm alive with plans, dreams, and designs, locked into anything and everything that is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. All right, there it is in total. Now, I want you to repeat after me. I'm going to slow it down just a tad because I want you to savor it. I want you to consider this as how to meditate your way through the world about you. that you can see the world through the lens of love in these words. Would you please repeat after me? I'm alive to love. I am not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating, and sleeping to regain energy for causing pain. I am alive with plans, dreams, and designs, locked into anything and everything that is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. Ladies and gentlemen, I offer this to you humbly as I know how, to say to you, the contemplation and meditation of our heart is where we will land. Consider your meditation on any given day, and then I propose to you that your meditation today will be your actions tomorrow. Your contemplations through the day today will set a stage for how you will behave and act on the future of your life. So that's why I say living love in an age of violence is so vital. It's so important to gather ourselves towards something higher, better, more significant, more beautiful, and to be a people who can understand that the violence of the time in which we live is, first of all, I think it goes without saying, this is not normal behavior, normal human behavior. It's an aberration. An aberration is simply a mirage. It's not true or real to the human system. It has to be contemplated and meditated in a soul that's broken and frustrated and crushed. It's got to be contemplated into that soul before it ever becomes an action out from that soul. That's why law enforcement, when they find shooters that they've apprehended, they go through their computers and through their diaries and their journals, and they will discover that this is a contemplation. This has been a meditation of their life long before they ever acted out on it. Now, I say that as a somewhat obvious problem, but I say that to all of you out there in an invitation for you to join me in a sound, beautiful contemplation and meditation, to make certain that your soul is being anchored in something more soul satisfying, something more beautifying on the inner world of your life. Your inner world will eventually become your outer world, is another way of saying everything I just proposed, that living love in the age of violence requires of me to pick and choose wisely what I will expose myself to. I think that is especially true in the barrage of social media information age that we live in, that you can see any violent act that you choose to see, and sometimes it comes about incidentally or even accidentally. You see it, and then you wish, oh man, I wish I hadn't seen that. Or you hear it, and then you feel like, oh, I'm going to have to scrub that out of my memory, my thoughts. And while it's important to be an informed person by news media and otherwise, we need to take good awareness of just how much of that becomes our meditation, our contemplation. That to contemplate repeatedly misery, sorrow, brokenness, pain is to build inside of us a callousness, even at best a calloused soul, a calloused way of thinking. And at worst, we're building something that we don't want to have in us, much less outside of us. And remember what I said, what we contemplate inwardly, our inner world, can eventually become our outer world. This is why In a previous broadcast here, I said to you, hate is murder. Seeing the equivalency of that brings me to just a revulsion of being hateful inwardly. It helps me to see that, oh, goodness, that's where murder starts. It doesn't start with loading a gun and running into a crowd. No, it starts long before there. Where in my inner world, I'm dancing with the devil, and I mean that literally. I'm dancing with darkness. I'm letting darkness own a corner of my life, and to that end, then that corner of my life has an infectious disease type existence, and you can't put a mask on to prevent its spread. You've got to see that the only way out of that kind of negativity is to sensitively, consistently replace it with something like Love's Creed. I'm not trying to sell Love's Creed at all. I would urge you, if you got something else, the prayer of St. Francis is certainly one of many examples to place within the bookshelf of your inner world. Pull that devotional down, read it, and not only read it, but give it a full space of your attention, attentiveness. So to live love in a violent age, we're not in a unique time in that regard. Human history has been awash in violence. Human history, the original story of Cain and Abel, the brothers of the book of Genesis, of Adam and Eve, the sons of Adam and Eve, the brothers who, out of sibling rivalry and hatred, there was a murder early on in the creation story. However you take the creation story, whether figuratively or literally, it is simply a cautionary tale that what we contemplate and how we carry bitterness and pain on the inside of us, those things become weaponized as we live out what we contemplate. So I'm here routinely inviting you to the contemplation of love, inviting you to a true sensibility that seeing your neighbor as someone who can pull you from the trap of yourself, loving your neighbor as yourself, having to consider, how do I love myself? Am I mean with myself internally? Am I, even externally? Am I abrupt with myself? Well, that kind of inner world becomes an outer world. But if I'm kind and if I'm found some gentle way of managing me, then I'm certainly going to find a kind and gentle, merciful way to manage my neighbor. We're not naturally taught this in our day and time. Well, ever. I said earlier, violence is the story of the human story. It is the human story. We're given to think that the only way we can stop crime, for instance, is to meet crime head on with a hard-nosed baton upside the head. If they've got a gun, then I've got a bigger gun. Well, unfortunately, that simply has never worked. I say jokingly every time I hear, kind of on a dark joke, when I hear news of another mass shooting or another random shooting in broad open daylight, I just say with a wry grin, oh my, if only we had more guns on the streets, we could stop more guns on the streets. You do see the silliness in that statement, don't you? We don't need more instruments through which we can act on the violence within us. We need more of a contemplation of love. I certainly know that I own guns. I'm not opposed to our ownership of guns. What I'm here for is to propose to you that the owner of those weapons be saturated and baptized in the power of love. I say that with a big lump in my throat. That if you own weapons of war, if you own something that threatens the life of others, you would most certainly, in my view, of necessity, own a larger caliber of love, of tolerance. In the big book of AA, the code of Alcoholics Anonymous is love and tolerance is our code. When I read that, and I shared it with a group just a few days ago, love and tolerance. Tolerance, in engineering terms, tolerance is what we build into the engineering of a bridge, for instance, or a tall building. The bridge has to have a certain amount of tolerance to bend and give and flex. And I know we don't want to imagine that while we're driving across the bridge, but in truth, every structure of some large weight-bearing capacity or some building that's going to have to withstand heavy winds has to have some tolerance, which is to say it's got to give a bit. It's got to be able to sag just a little. That bridge has to give to the heavy trucks that are crossing. Now, if there is no tolerance built in, engineering-wise, when those bridges or those buildings can't flex, well, then they break. Many years ago, I heard the proposed addition to the Sermon on the Mount, and that is, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken." I suggest to you that love is that flexibility. Love is that code by which you see the world and you create an engineering weight-bearing capacity when the weight is heavy, when the weight of others' mercilessness, when the weight of others' murderous mantras, when the weight of others who are bearing harm in their mind and in their actions. Even then, love and tolerance must be our code. Doesn't mean that we approve of violent actions. It means that we find in our souls a means by which, even the murderer, we find a capacity of love. When Cain and Abel's story, as I referred to a few moments ago, when Cain killed his brother Abel, God came, figuratively or literally, however you take that, and God came and wanted to know, what is this blood speaking to me from the ground? And Cain lied to cover himself, but when he knew his lie would not cover his crime, God did not kill Cain. Hear that carefully. There was not a death sentence for Cain from God, the Creator, the writer of the Ten Commandments. God let Cain go free to go about his life, obviously not free of the bloody mess that he had made, but free to live his life forward and upward, regardless of the crime he committed. Now, that has been for me forever. I have always been stunned. The first crime in the Bible shows God in his mercy, kindness, and love. Whew, that does take my breath, because God was able to see into the soul of Cain what was cooking in there. And you've heard me say it this way: what was burning in his kitchen? Something was burning in there that created a murderous reaction to his brother. Now, I know our legal system has a job to do, and I wish them all the best. I really do. I pray for the Department of Justice. I pray for police who have this impossible task of managing the crime waves of human history. But I also understand that wherever and however we as individuals viewing the criminality of murder, violence, that's my subject today. When we're viewing violence, how do we survive in a violent world? Well, I'm proposing that love approaches violence the same way God approached Cain and Abel, with a full understanding of there's more to this story than just the surface. There's more to this blood in the ground that God said is speaking to him. Wow. There's more to the blood that's still in the ground, speaking to God and us now. What does it say? What is its conversation with us? What is it inviting us to consider in the face of the weightiness and the pain and the misery, the heartbreak of the violent world in which we live. One more time for emphasis. I'm not in any way suggesting that this is a singularly violent time in human history. It certainly isn't. It's a repetitious, it's a mantra that has been far too long a part of the human existence. And this is why the prophet Isaiah and the prophet Micah prophesied a day when they would learn war no more, and they would beat their swords into plowshares. The prophet is calling us to imagine a time when we would take all the weapons of war, all the bombs and all the bullets and all the guns and all the tanks, all the attack drones, all the planes, all the missiles, and they would be converted to agricultural productivity. This is the dream of God. This is the call of God. This is how deep and wide and tall the call of God is to you and to me, to imagine that the possibility exists of love in a time of violence, transforming the expressions of hatred and fear into expressions of sustenance and nourishment and profound human support through agriculture. They'll beat their swords into plowshares. When some disciples of Jesus pulled the sword to rescue him from the arrest, he said, "Put your sword away." I would add that could be taken of Jesus saying, "No more of that. None of that." Peter had swung a sword and took an ear off of one of the arresting officers, one of the servants. I heard somebody say one time he wasn't aiming at the ear. He was just had a bad aim, and he'd only took the ear when he probably meant to take the head. And that's where Jesus symbolically, prophetically, and literally heals that ear, puts that ear back so that the wound of the weapon of violence would not stay as a stain against Jesus' own life. In fact, the legend of that moment calls us, heal the bloody wounds of the weapons of violence. Heal those terrible, awful, shocking wounds. Put the ear back. Give that person the ability to once again hear well, perceive well. And how does that happen? Well, Jesus said, love your enemies. Love your enemies. Now, right there's a tall order, isn't it? That in itself is love's creed. Love your enemies. Well, I've got to bring this to a close, and I want to invite you to do what I'm offering you, especially as it pertains to this subject, love in an age of violence, and that is, let's learn how to breathe, slow life down, turn the noise off, and turn on a quietness and a serenity through breathing. On the count of 3, if you'll sit up straight and put your feet flat on the floor, take the deepest breath you can. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Hold it. And exhale. I just wonder how much darkness can be blown away when we stop, when we rest, when we breathe well. Next of all, I want to take you to the 3 most holy, charmed, magical words in the human language. Yes, I know. Some of you have been here before. You know where I'm going. I know it's awkward. I know it's off-putting, but I also know how vital it is. And yes, I know we can't just say I love you and be done and never have any actions of love. That's ridiculous. But it is also ridiculous to live just the actions of love without the signature of these 3 holy words, these 3 magical words. The signature to your actions of saying, I love you. I want you to see my actions, but then I want you to hear my actions personified in 3 words with eye contact. I love you. I've repeated this so many times, and people know me well enough. Some folks know when I'm coming at them. They know, oh boy, here he comes. Well, I'm okay with that. I'm simply pushing whatever little weight I can against the tide of violence with a signature of love. And whatever it takes, moving right along through this world, I want to be one voice of somebody crying in this wilderness, a darkness of hatred, to bring love to the forefront, even with the simple expression, the simple words of saying, I love you. Today's topic also brings special meaning to my sign-off when I say the biggest mistake we make is thinking we still have time. Love more. Love now. Be kind. Love more. Love now. Don't make the mistake of saying we still have more time. We got all the time in the world. None of us have that promise on any given day. And in an age of violence, and when violence is accentuated and exaggerated as it is in our time, I hope it's pressing us to live an inner world that says, I don't have that luxury to live like I've got all the rest of the eternity to just do whatever it is that I finally want to do someday. Love more today. Be kind today. Love more. That's certainly a meditation, isn't it? In the face of contradiction, in the face of those who just want to push hard, so hard, against beauty. And speaking of beauty, let's be the people of beauty. Let's do something beautiful. It's my intention and goal in life that I can just drop seeds everywhere I go of beauty, and especially the beauty of love, to make sure that in my wake, people are finding something to harvest in this world, in this rough and tumble, bloody world. That they're finding something that they say, wow, that was beautiful. May have been just a simple thank you. It may have been a simple smile and a nod. May have been a simple handshake or even a hug. May have been a simple a simplicity of maybe I don't get the chance to say with intention and eye contact, I love you, but I can say, hey, I love you. I love you, guy. I love you, gal. With just a pure and merciful hug, because I don't know the battle that person's facing that I'm looking at. So do something beautiful today. Do something beautiful. Why? Because ugly is getting done to death. That means more to me and my sign-off than most times, if not every time I've ever said it. Do something beautiful, folks, because ugly is getting done to death. Let's please be the people of beauty. In the face of bloody violence, let's be the face of joyous, kind, gentle, merciful love. Love deep and wide. Love tall, love deep. Love more. Love now. All right, thank you for your life and time this past half an hour. I'm Bishop Randy Dean. I'm telling you, love is the answer, no matter what the question. Happy trails, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. If you like the show, leave a comment on it. Or, even better, share it with your friends. And we'll see you on the next one.